Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Setting the Screen, Off the Ball Network production. Tonight, we got another cool show for you. Me and AaronB from Tacos and Touchdowns, we're going to talk about the new. As we record now, it just came out a few days ago. The new Netflix movie about the true story about Sean Payton, Home Team. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, Aaron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be talking about some sports movies. It's just glad to talk about it. I was like, I want to talk about some sports movie, and then I seen you got this thing on. I was like,
Hey,
hey, let's
that's
do it.
perfect. Just so you know, this is whenever you listen to this, it might be a year from now, but if you're listening to it currently, like this is Off the Ball Network's new kind of, we call it the entertainment division. It gives us guys a chance to, as much as we love breaking down football and basketball and every other sport, we all love movies, we all love TV. So this is kind of it's a little more relaxed, a little more fun,
Yeah.
a little more loose. So what made you think of this? What made you think of this movie, man? Because I'll tell you straight up, when you text me about it, I didn't even know it was coming out.
Oh, it was literally like when Sean Payton retired. I seen a trailer. I was like, okay, and then it was like a
Oh,
couple
okay.
minutes, and I seen it said setting this. You had y'all starting this thing called setting the screen. I'm like, hey, let me hit up Jeff. Someone kept telling me, I'm like, maybe you want to talk about this movie. Maybe you heard about it, and you're like. I
No,
never. What is this on? I was like, on Netflix. I was like,
no,
looked
that's
pretty
perfect,
funny.
man. Yeah, I'm down for any. What made it cool though is since I had zero clue what the movie was. I'll be honest with you, like I do this typically. I'm not a guy that watches a lot of trailers or does a lot of digging into movies because I like to.
Yeah.
I personally like to enjoy the movie as the movie maker puts it out there for me, almost like reading a book. That's just me. I'm
Yeah, I get
notoriously
you.
like, I love Marvel comic movies, DC comic movies, all of them. And when they start running trailers, like what's going on with the Batman right now, I will purposely avoid them. I will close my eyes in the
Oh,
theater when they're on, things like that, because that's just how I like to live the movie. So as soon as you said Home Team, I didn't go click on it. I didn't research it. All I knew was Kevin James and Home Team. So when it started and I see Sean Payton, I was like, what is happening here? I literally had no idea what this movie was about going into it. I had never heard this story before. About, sort of about Sean Payton. We'll get into that
yeah.
later. So it was cool, man. I'm glad you did it. So we'll get into it here. So we'll kind of start with the cast. We'll go down through it. Oh, so a little synopsis here. People are probably in the dark. I apologize. See, I'm new at this. Everybody, give me a break. Uh, this this is synopsis. IMDb synopsis, real quick. Yeah, that's the basic way everybody does it. The story about New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton coaching his son's sixth grade football team when Payton was suspended for the entire 2012 season as a result of his role in the Saints Bounty Gate scandal. So we should probably dig into the sports side of this a little bit, AB. Um, I had forgot about Bounty Gate and Peyton
Same.
being suspended for an entire year during the heyday of the Saints. I mean, the 2012 Saints were spectacular still, and Peyton sat out the whole season. So, was that fresh in your mind, or when you heard that, you're like, oh, holy cow, I forgot about Bounty Gate? Which, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually forgot about Bounty Gate until they brought it up. I looked in the trailer. Oh, Bounty Gate. I'm like, that's 10 years. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
I,
Well, and here's the
I was
thing: when
like,
they said he was suspended in the movie, when they say suspended, I'm like, wait a minute, he couldn't have been suspended. He just retired last week, and I'm like, oh, 2 years after the Super Bowl, Bounty Gate,
yeah,
Greg Robertson, and all that. I'm like, holy cow, I'd forgot about all that. Which it's we don't want to get too much into this because this is evergreen podcast, but it's very relevant now and how the NFL just they always just trudge through this and
yeah,
it's overlooked. Like nobody remembers Bounty Gate, and it was such a big deal, dude. Like,
yeah,
once they started getting into it, that was if anybody doesn't know, basically it was this: the Saints were offering, you know, bonuses for hard hits. Supposedly, I don't know. I can't remember how truth it was. Putting people out of the game. That's why it became
yeah,
a bounty. The one argument was, all they were doing was rewarding them for playing it. They didn't have to play dirty to do it. A lot of people were saying that encourage you to play dirty. I don't know. Where did you stand on Bounty Gate? Because I mean, that's your conference. You're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Where were you at with that? Or did you have an opinion on it?
in my opinion, I was like, I kind of felt like this is going on in the NFL regardless, and they were just a team that got caught. Like you watch certain players, you're like these players get a little extra aggressive with the hits, so there's got to be something going on. Then you find out there it's happening with the Saints got caught. Like, okay, they're the first team that I know of that actually got caught paying their players a little extra incentive. Like, hey, you see that running back right there next week? I'll give you a little extra 50 grand if
I,
you lay them
and
out.
I and I suppose what's weird about it is if you have a football background, if you've ever played football in your life, coached it or whatever, also, nobody says it out loud, but you, you never want to cheap shot anybody, but when you go out there, you want to hit somebody really hard. Like you really,
Yeah.
really like you really want to cause bodily harm to somebody within the
Mhm.
rules of the game every time. Just it's never spoken about. So I think that's why this blew away so quick. Because just like you said, everybody's kind of looking side to side, like, oh yeah, we don't we don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. But it was big though that it was the Saints because that team was kind of it's one of those like they were the feel good story, after Katrina, deservedly so. Breeze was a walking billboard for everything that's right in the NFL. And, everything was just around them. There was a pretty good energy around them. And when that happened, it was kind of shocking, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so back to the movie. So this we'll get out through the cast here and kind of break them down a little bit. I call them the players. Usually on setting the screen, we call them the players. But so this is
Okay.
starting lineup. We had Kevin James played Sean Payton, which by far is the main character. Like this is all Sean Payton driven, the coach of the Saints. Taylor Lautner, yes, the Taylor Lautner, Twilight
Yeah.
Jacob, played Troy Lambert, who was the existing head coach of the sixth grade team that Payton became. We'll get into that too. Payton actually became the offensive coordinator for it in this movie. Kind of takes over sort of head coaching duties. It's a little gray. You got an old timer, Rob Schneider, shows up as Peyton's ex-wife's boyfriend. Kind of a goofy, funny character. You got Jackie Sandler. Great. Really did a great job as Beth, Peyton's ex-wife at the time, who lives, in the hometown, Jackie Sandler. And then we'll get into this guy here in a minute. I'm going to buzz by him because I got a lot to say about this. We're talking about Gary Valentine played Coach Mitch Bazzone. And honestly, if he doesn't get nominated for an Oscar, quit giving out Oscars. Lavelle Crawford plays Gus, the bus driver. Absolutely, these two guys are, these guys are longtime, great comedians and just killed it. A couple more, then we get down into like Chloe Feynman was the intern, and Tate Blum played Connor Payton, which is obviously Sean Payton's son, the focal character, the focal character in it. A lot of other really cool young actors in it that I thought did a really nice job. We'll talk about them a little bit. So we'll start at the top. What'd you think of Kevin James in this movie? Here's what I'll say real quick. I thought Kevin James did a good job playing a football coach. I like Kevin James. He's done a great job his whole career. I could not get past that it was Kevin James. Like I could just never get myself to feel like this was Sean Payton. It felt like Kevin James the whole time. He did a good job, but yet it just I think he might have been too famous. What do you think about Kevin James' performance in this movie?
Yeah, I couldn't have like a belief this is Sean Payton because they're like this different builds. It's just like Kevin James just put a Saints visor on and a little tracksuit.
Here's a question I had for you. Did Sean Payton never take off a visor? Is this something that's true? Because James had that visor on the whole movie, and I'm like, Payton never takes off his visor. It's weird. But
yeah, I can't think of a time where I didn't see him without a visor. But
that was weird.
yeah, it's just like Kevin James. You act like a football coach you've seen in your past, then watch a couple of mic'd ups of Sean Payton, and we'll see we go from there.
Yeah, that's a good. That is exactly how I felt. Like I said, and I think he was in like if they just make a movie about a football coach, a fictional football coach, he did all right. But and as well as we know Sean Payton, I mean, we've known this guy for well over a decade. The NFL, he's a pretty vocal coach. We know a lot. It just you have a good feel for him. And when you watch football as much as us and are as close to it, it was really hard for me to. I just couldn't get past it. It was Kevin James. Not that I didn't enjoy the movie, but just it was like, okay, it's just Kevin. I will say this, though. okay, so I got to ask this about the performance. When it was all said and done, did and I mean Sean Payton endorsed the movie, but did Kevin like he kind of came off as a dick, right? Like he never really like the whole time he never kind of broke that character. I'm like, is Sean Payton, is that his reputation that he's kind of an ass? I don't know.
I, I kind of feel like that's a lot of great coaches. Like they have that reputation of being an ass or a dick, and sometimes they could turn it off, turn that light switch off, but some just keep it on. Like
And maybe
that's how I
that's
feel.
true. Maybe that's true. Maybe Kevin James really researched this character. I like what you said. It looked like he watched an episode of Hard Knocks and was like, okay, I know how to be a football coach now. But
Yeah,
it was what it was. But he was a big enough star to carry. This is, again, we should say this is a Happy Madison production, which is Adam Sandler's company. So there's a lot of reoccurring characters, Rob Schneider, of course, and things like that. Kevin James is, an Adam Sandler guy. So um, eh, we'll talk about if there's a different movie in here, but as far as this one goes, it was fine. And we got Taylor Lautner as Troy Lambert. I don't really, I thought he was fun. I just didn't really, what do I say it? I didn't really care. Like, I don't know
yeah.
if it mattered who played that part. He's buff now. I mean, he's, stayed in great shape or whatever. And I think he did all right, but there wasn't a lot for him to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I couldn't even think of a way to describe him. I was like, he's kind of like that coach, like, oh, we're getting oranges after the game or something like that.
Yeah.
Participation
Yeah.
trophies.
I suppose if I don't even know, I suppose if he's an NFL coach, he's one of these like retreads that I kind of forgot was a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that guy was a coach. Like, I'm a Dolphins fan. We've been through 15 coaches like this that I couldn't remember their name, a year after they're gone. They were just kind of like, a caricature of a coach. But yeah, I don't know. I guess he did kind of act like a sixth grade coach, but he really kind of didn't know what he was doing sometimes. It was one of those weird characters. He just didn't get a lot to do. Uh, Rob Schneider plays like this kind of new age, um, kind of freeloading boyfriend to the
Yeah.
ex-wife living in, Peyton's old house. And I liked how they didn't hide the fact that Peyton was a rich, successful, NFL coach. Like, the houses were all nice neighborhoods, because that's realistic.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sean, not a fun fact, but I found out, um, Peyton and his ex-wife didn't get divorced and didn't even file for divorce until like halfway through the suspended season. So
Oh,
they were actually still married at the time of when he went back to coach his son's team. So Rob Schneider's a fictional character that they just brought into
I,
it. He was
I kind of
fun
felt like,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, you could tell. You could tell that he's not based on anybody, but I don't know. I don't know where you're at on Rob Schneider, if you even care, but I thought his character added to it. It was comic relief.
Yeah, it was. He kind of reminded me, like in the movie Grown Ups, when he kind of plays that vegan yoga type of teacher. He kind of took that
Yeah.
role from Grown Ups, but added a little twist to it. But it was still funny. Like Rob Schneider's gonna be in the movie some way or another. Like
Exactly. Yeah, he got a lot of traction. But I thought he did pretty good. I thought him, of course, him and James played off each other really well. So it's probably a good
yeah,
choice. Jackie Sandler as Beth, the ex-wife. I thought she was amazing. I thought, and she very similar when you go to the comparisons of
yeah,
the actual Beth. Pretty close, pretty good casting. I thought she was funny. She was extremely attractive. I mean, it was hard not to notice that.
yeah,
I thought it felt like but I really thought it felt like she was the mom. Like I felt like her and Connor, had a connection. I thought she did a great job. I thought it really helped, and I thought her and Kevin James worked pretty well. I kind of bought it. I kind of
yeah.
bought that they could have been married.
Yeah, she kind of felt like that was actually Sean Payton's ex-wife. The way she
Yeah,
was in there, I was like, oh, is this Sean Payton's wife? But then you say, check it. Oh, it's Becky Sandler. I didn't. I was like,
yeah.
wait a minute. They look exactly alike in a way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Great casting. Yeah, she was really good. I thought she was really good. Okay, now we got to talk about my guy. we we got to talk about Coach Pizzone, man. Gary Valentine plays Mitch Pizzone. Mitch Pizzone is this.
Man.
He is just your typical um, uh, oversized, over personality. Think. He's actually now. Did you remember the coach that he was patterned off of?
No. Who was it?
Okay, so years ago on Hard Knocks, when Cleveland was on Hard Knocks,
Oh,
you remember now? He barked. You remember that guy? Let me see if I can find him on here. His last name was Barry, I believe.
I
I can't.
remember the Hut guy, right?
Yeah, the guy. So there was a coach, and the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, oh my god, that's that coach. That's that coach. That's that coach. So now I lost his name. I got to bring it up though to give him the respect. But anyway,
Yeah,
this guy was awesome. He had
yeah,
he's like this the whole backstory. You get this. I want a movie about Coach Bazzone. Like the kids give you the whole backstory. He's drinking the coaching juice. What was that? Was that what they called it? The coach juice or whatever
yeah,
all
something
the
like
time.
that.
He had to ride a bike everywhere because he had lost his license, so to speak.
Man,
Just the way he interacted, I thought he nailed it. I thought he nailed. I'm pretty sure that guy's name was Barry. I apologize to the live viewers. I'll edit this out for the audio version if I can find it here.
but yeah, he was kind of. Then he was like the town's drunk as well. And did he? I remember they were at the bar. He literally
Dude,
grabbed that piece, fell down, and ran off. I was dead. Like,
dude, when he crashes into the bar, let's go. I know this is dead air, people. We got to get it. We got it. I'll get it here in a second. Then we'll move on.
football fans will appreciate it.
Yeah, but when he crashes into the barn,
Man,
and I had his name up all day. He was the offensive. Nope, that's the wrong guy. He was the guy after Hal Hunter. So I need to go to.
he was like that old 1950 coach that would smoke a cigar.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, he was money the whole show. Everything he did was funny. He stayed in character. Of course, I believe that's Kevin James' cousin, if I remember correct. Gary Valentine. I think that was
Oh
Kevin
yeah,
James. I think they're cousins. He's in everything you do. But here we go. I had it wrote down upstairs. You know it. You know I forgot my notes.
oh man, I do the
Bob
same thing.
Wiley. Bob Wiley.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
look up Bob Wiley, and it is identical. It was awesome. He was so much fun. I mean, he had me like, and especially for it being basically a kid's movie to where you can only go so far. He had me in stitches. Like he had me in absolute stitches the entire show. I thought he made it for me. And then another guy basically kind of his partner, Lavelle Crawford, plays Gus the bus driver. Oh my God. Dude. What do you think? What do you think of these two guys, man?
Hilarious. Like Lavelle Crawford is kind of like that old school football player talked about back in his days. That's a bus driver now. Like, if you ever been on a bus and you had that you always have a former football player that's a bus driver, and he'll talk about back in his day, and he's always hilarious or something like that. He don't play any games as well at the same time, and that just Lavelle Crawford's role.
Dude, when
Like,
he's
that
telling
man's
a story
hilarious.
about going into the end zone with 5 players, and I can't even remember now. And I'll try to put this clip in the show. And a grandma, and I think he was knitting something. He was money the whole show. Like he was money the whole show. Really, really liked him. I liked the part too where you have the two dads that are kind of harassing Sean Payton early on, and these two guys step up like we're done here, like kind of like the bodyguards, you know. I thought that was really cool. I thought that honestly, you know, Mitch or Bazzone, the bus driver, Peyton, like all those guys really. I did feel like they were part of a team, like a coaching staff. I thought they did a really nice job with that. Um, it was cool though, man, but not a bad cast. It's your typical Happy Madison cast. You know, it's not perfect. It was, you know, they did what they had to do with. I believe I want to say I forget the exact connection, but Sean Payton's daughter, he's got a daughter they didn't talk about in the movie. And I want to say that her husband or boyfriend, you know, don't quote me on that, actually had a part in writing this movie, like helping write this movie. Because Payton wrote a book years ago called Home Team, but it's actually about the 2007 comeback Saints after Katrina. So there's no connection. You muted yourself again, Aaron. We need you on the show, buddy.
Dang, I don't know what
It's
else.
all right. I thought maybe you was cussing at me or something. I was like,
No,
"Sheesh." Nah, just
I
playing.
wasn't. No, but I remember reading that book, Home Team, one time.
Oh, nice.
We were Oklahoma and Texas, and I was deep into it. Like you were saying, it was just about when they're about Hurricane Katrina and all that stuff, and it's totally opposite of what this movie's about. So,
Mm, yeah. So basically, yeah, that's the synopsis of this movie. Peyton goes back, and what this movie really is him getting to know his kid and coming up with a bond. You know, he's because of the coaching and being away in New Orleans, not a lot of time together. So it's at the heart of the movie. That's what it's about. Is Sean Payton learning what's the classic story. And this is where I did have a few problems. Like it's the classic story. Like, yeah, we know it's you got to get perspective and winning's not everything and all those things, but it's fine. I think kids will still like it, and if they get that message, that's cool. I thought the players were really good. I thought the players that they
yeah,
showcased were really funny and did a nice job. Honest, actually, they really kind of in kids movies. It's hard to do. They look pretty athletic, like a football team. Like I bought it.
yeah, they did. They they there's goodness movies like Bad News Bears, that movie Rebound. Those kids were kind of like a blend of like that's my description of those kids. They
Yeah,
weren't like annoying. They weren't annoying or something like. Can we go to the next thing? Like I want to hear. I kind of want to hear more about these kids because they're actually entertaining and stuff. Like they enjoy being in this role.
yeah, exactly. I thought it was really cool. I mean, it's your stereotypical stuff. I mean, you're gonna have
Yeah,
you got the shy kids, you
yeah,
got the smallest kid on the team. He really cool guy. Harlan was his name, the kicker. That was a neat little storyline with him trying to get the girl in the stands to notice him. Really, I thought that was a fun
yeah.
storyline. And you knew, and you knew someone was gonna catch on fire that night, right? But that
Oh, it's a
was
Happy Madison movie.
yeah, exactly. But I thought they did a good job building that family, that teamwork.
Yeah,
Getting them to classic. Got to get them to come together. We did another show in here about the replacements, and you have the jailhouse scene where they sing "I Will Survive," and that's what kind of brings them all together. This
yeah,
movie did kind of the same thing. I mean, it's tropes, it's typical stuff,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
sports movies are that's what we do. Um, I thought overall that was pretty cool. Oh, wait a minute, another guy we didn't talk about. What'd you think about the guy that ran the hotel? The one they didn't run it. The guy that worked the desk at the hotel Peyton was staying at. I thought that went well.
That went well, but he kind of reminded me of a guy that when you're trying to do something and he just like a total jerk the whole time. I'm like, come on. I
Yeah.
didn't have a bad day.
And you know what? I don't even have him on my IMDb. I cannot believe that he's not up higher on it.
Oh, he's not?
No, it's crazy. We have to go
Like
deeper
he got
into it, I guess.
a
See
good
all
amount of
cast.
time on there.
Yeah, right. He had a pretty big part in it. That's pretty wild. But it was cool though. It was cool. Did some funny stuff. Some of the stuff's ridiculous. Um,
Yeah.
Another nitpick I have about the movie is we'll get into a couple of the scenes later, but it was just some of the stuff was so slaps. Okay, I had a question for you.
All right.
We had this whole movie. We have this jacuzzi that won't shut up.
Mhm.
Why did the jacuzzi have water in it? Why couldn't they drain the jacuzzi?
Yeah, like that didn't make any sense to me. Like if you keep it on like that, it doesn't get all moldy, it's on smell and everything
That's
else.
gross, especially a jacuzzi. Now a hot tub's different. He didn't have a hot tub. He
Yeah,
had a jacuzzi. Like you drain a jacuzzi, like you fill a jacuzzi every
yeah,
time you use it. I could not figure out why they wouldn't drain the jacuzzi. It was
yeah,
driving me insane. We
yeah,
spent, like you said, so much time talking about this jacuzzi. Not that it wasn't funny, but like just drain the jacuzzi
yeah,
already. My goodness.
yeah. I feel like they should just one scene and just moved on to it, but they kind of just gave it back to
Yeah,
us. Like, remember the jacuzzi? Remember the jacuzzi? I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, but can we
exactly.
move on?
Yeah, they could have done different things. I mean, a lot of movies use like a barking dog, or a lot of movies use neighbors fighting
Yeah,
or whatever. They use this jacuzzi, but I'm like, just it didn't make any sense. I'm like, that's very easy. Just drain the freaking jacuzzi. That part was it definitely wasn't. I mean, it was definitely made for 11-year-olds. I think they might think it's
yeah,
funnier than we did. Not again, I did enjoy it. So that was one of my things, um, but there was some good stuff too. I I like the interaction with Kevin James and the dads that are trying to basically kind of push their weight around and all that. Really, I thought that was pretty cool, and it's fairly realistic.
Yeah, it was like if you ever watch any game where that dad's like, my son ain't playing and all that stuff. But Kevin James, that movie, kept it cool. He wasn't like yelling and screaming back with him. He said, it's like, it's final, and I'm going to keep it like that, and just walked on. And you just go back. Then you go to Lavelle Crawford, and his bodyguard's like,
it is funny. My son's high school coach was a little like that. It reminded me of him. He was very, when, and he didn't get too excited about that stuff, that personal stuff like that. When Kevin James was like, "Oh, I'm going to go grab my clipboard and write some of this stuff down," and just walked away, like just things like that. That was pretty funny. And a guy I almost forgot, very important character in the movie. His actor named Isaiah Mustafa. He played the Porcupines the head coach. That dude absolutely crushed it. Like he's one of my favorite all-time head coaches. He was given Peyton, and that I think this is probably fairly realistic because somebody was doing that. And Porcupine's coach, man, that's all it has him listed as. Porcupine coach was just giving Sean Payton the business for, it wound up being a couple games in this. I love that guy. I thought he kind of looked like the Old Spice guy, but I don't know if that's true or not.
That is him.
Is that him?
Yeah, that's him. He used to be a football player as well back in the NFL Europa days.
Yeah, short coaching shorts. I mean, everything was he was money. Like everything he said was great. I loved him. I thought he really, really helped the movie. Actually, I thought he did a much better job as a coach than Kevin James, for being honest.
He did. Yeah, the funny thing is we had a defensive back coach back in high school that was exactly like him. Wore the same outfit and everything.
Oh yeah, we all did this movie. So it brought up the same discussion with me and some of my friends, and it brought up the same discussion of like, these coaches are the coaches we had. Like I had a coach that, he wore the tight, short coaching shorts, tucked in polo, and I mean that thing was tucked in tight and immaculate. The whistle always smelled like aftershave. Like I'll never forget. I'm like, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, that's my guy. And I haven't played in about 30 years, man. Like nothing changes. He was so awesome. That's right. I do remember the story about Mustafa doing that. I thought he was great too. So that's what I said. They really cast some good characters, like some really memorable characters. I will say this is a movie that you can watch more than once. That's what Happy Madison does. That's kind of their thing, but it's not a one-off for sure. So let's talk about just any of your favorite scenes. We always call them favorite plays, but any of your favorite scenes in this that stand out that you enjoyed more than others?
Man, it's just like the kids, and like I was about to say, the villains in the movie, like the kids and stuff, with their snappy comebacks, they weren't like annoying. They were like they were just quick. Like they say something, we got something back. And my favorite scene when they do the coin flip, the Porcupines and the Warriors, and the referee said, "Hey, I don't know what to say to that," or something like that. But that was one of my favorite parts.
Oh yeah, it was cool. Really cool. I liked. I don't know. Okay, I know a scene I didn't like, but a few scenes. Man, I don't know. I kind of like. I love the. Oh my gosh, one of my favorites. Just because I kind of did this with a flag football team. My son's flag football team. He would have been about sixth grade because he took off. He took off a few years of tackle football and played flag football until he was in seventh grade. So I coached his sixth grade flag football team. And the scene where we'll call him Peyton, Sean Payton, creates the playbook for the players, which turns out it was fairly factual. He actually did take the Saints playbook and adapt it to that team. When he makes up the playbook and he's making the copies and he's drawing it up and he's giving it out I did the same thing. I found out I was coaching them and I'm like, okay, I went home on my computer. Here's what I did. I got on to Madden and I looked at it's probably NCAA football or Madden, one of the two. And I was looking at the plays, and then I took those plays and adapted them for the flag football team and made up a playbook for these sixth graders. Half of the kids on the team had never, ever ran a football play or even caught a football or played football or whatever. And my son, he had lived with me. So it was kind of like really a lot like Sean and Connor in this movie, to where he's like, I'm telling you, Dad. Like, and so I hand out the playbook, man, and they're just like, what's this arrow? I mean, I honestly had to turn a couple of them right side up so they understood the
Yeah.
X's and O's and all that. So I really like the scene where Peyton's delivers the playbook to the team, and then that goes into where he's teaching it to them with
Yeah.
they're eating tacos.
Oh. Oh
You
yeah.
know, so I like that whole probably 15 minutes of the movie. I think that was my favorite because that just hit closest to home. My wife's laughing because she's like, "Oh my God, that's you!" At the lowest level. I'm obviously not Sean Payton, but it was. I'm telling you, man, it was like it was a picture right out of my life. Man, that was fun.
Man. I bet. I actually remember another favorite scene I like
Yeah,
actually connected to that is that when the quarterback he switched to number 7, he forgot when he said to play like what coach? But he said grande burrito. He's like, oh okay, coach.
oh yeah, yeah. No, no,
Yeah,
I did enjoy that because it's hard to do with that, but that is how it. As the limited time I had coaching, you do have to find a way to relate with younger people so they digest the info better. I mean, they went to the extremes, but it was still cool. The kid's eating the chip. He's like, "Did you just eat the Z? Did you just eat the Z?"
he said don't eat the next Z or something like that or X.
yeah, that I like that a lot. But that was neat. And of course, you always have the montage. They win a few games in a row. You're gonna have that
Yeah,
montage. The timeline didn't make a ton of sense because it felt like they played a 5-month season because they had time to go on
really.
a losing streak and a winning streak. And I'm like, how many games did they play? Sixth grade team. I'm like, I know I'm overthinking it here, but then they had the playoffs. I'm like, what is happening? I'm
Yeah,
like,
because
these kids are playing like an NFL season.
yeah, for real. It was like I remember middle school. It was like 8 games or something like that. Who had the best record at the end of the
Yeah.
season? They win the trophy. It's not like a whole playoff bracket like they
These
had. I was
kids
like,
they had to fight their way to the playoffs. They had a playoff bracket. I'm like, holy cow, this is really organized. And that's when I'm like, well, it is Texas. So they take their football serious down there. They might have a 12-team playoff bracket for their sixth grade teams or whatever. But you're going to have that because you got to have the
yeah,
championship game. Felt that the playoffs felt a lot like the Little Giants, that movie. Like
yeah,
they I know it's football. There's only so many things you can do, but a lot of that felt. I will say this: at least they didn't do any. I cannot stand it when football movies do the last play is some crazy trick play that would never work in a million years. They didn't do that. You know, um, the last scene here is that was pretty cool. So our boy Harlan sees this girl in the end zone. He's finally worked up the nerve to let loose and kick the kick, and misses by a mile. The scoreboard explode, and they found a really cool way to make that like fun. And I did like that ending to where you're
yeah,
like, oh, and then like you realize like, oh no, it's literally just kids having fun, and they won't care
yeah.
in 10 days. I thought the ending was pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't like the stereotypical one where they lose and then the coach gives them like this stereotypical
Yeah.
speech or something like that. Or they win, they're like, yeah, we got to, and they ended off like, oh, what they're doing now and stuff. I'm like, I'm glad this one had like a comedic type of ending.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I really because when it first happened, I'm like, oh, here we go. Or I'm glad the kid didn't make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So really, I don't know. I thought that was one of the funnier parts of it, honestly. Um, looking back, probably my biggest gripe, the scene with the vomit and the throwing up.
um,
Okay, we've all been in a huddle with somebody that puked. I get that. That they could have made it, but then for it to become a touchdown because of it, I thought that really, I I, I think they really just went way too far there. I don't even know if kids would think that's funny. Um, I thought that was just kind of dumb. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I
it,
thought that whole scene was kind of dumb.
yeah, it was overkill. It's like they wanted to show you, oh, we can make CG throw up or something like that. It was like overdid. It was like felt like 20 minutes of watching everybody throw up. I'm like,
Yeah.
can we stop?
Yeah, and I don't mind them starting off. Of course, they telegraphed it. I mean, they throw a softball when Rob Schneider's giving out the power bars or super bars or whatever.
Yeah,
You already know what's gonna happen. I knew it was either gonna be, it's a Sandler movie. I knew it was gonna be farts or puke. But
Yeah,
it could have been cooler because I'm saying we've all been on that team to where a guy throws up, then you're like, okay, everybody can't start throwing up, and and it just, but that just got ridiculous. Like they can't be proud of that, but I don't
yeah.
know.
I kind
It
of
was weird. It was weird.
Yeah, I kind of it would have been better if like all of them had to rush to the restroom or something like that. I think that would have been more funnier than
Yeah,
a
Lamar
bunch of
Jackson
throwing.
style.
Yeah, like Paul Pierce or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like
Anything.
that have been more funnier. The throw up, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, can we stop?
that was the only time that really I was out of the movie. I was like, come on, let's get through this. How long is this going to take? How many? And plus, it was kind of nauseating. It was funny though.
It
Another
was.
story. One of my one of my son's games. It was pregame, so you know how it is. Football team. They all go eat somebody's house or something after school before the game, and so I remember they had a spaghetti dinner, but it was still in the fall here, so it was like it was still a hot game. It was like 85 degrees and humid, and we're watching them warm up. We get there early, and we saw like 10 different players run to the trash can and they're throwing up and throwing up. And it just was like contagious. And when I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, me and my wife still call it the spaghetti game. It was like, do you remember the spaghetti game when and it was nothing wrong with it. It was just the timing. And then it just it's almost contagious sometimes, but it was,
Yeah.
so they could have done something like that. They went the other way. It is what it is. This whole movie kind of is what it is. But
Man,
again, no, we got 2 games with the Porcupine coach, so he was on fire. Like he was
he was.
absolutely on 12 this whole. I want more. I want a movie. Give me. I would say there'll almost be a sequel because of that, because of Coach Mazzone and the Porcupine coach. Like they got to put them in another movie. However they need to do it, I'm in. I am in on everything they do
I,
in the future.
I feel like how this movie's set up, you could actually literally do make a sequel because it's
Oh,
like
easy.
they take like a little chunk of the truth, and then it's like Happy Madison's like majority of the Happy Madison twist because majority of those characters are probably characters they've obviously made up. You could tell which
Oh
ones are
yeah.
the real ones and which ones are the fictional ones.
And what's funny is the fictional ones, a couple of them are more realistic than the real ones that they tried to, like I know Coach Bazzones, I know the bus driver,
Yeah.
I know Jamie, which is Rob Schneider. Like I've met that guy. Taylor
Hmm.
Lautner, I don't know. I don't know what I think he should maybe a little league baseball coach. I think he fit baseball coach more, but I just never quite bought it on the football coach side of it. But he could get better
Yeah.
in part 2. He could be better.
Yeah. He could. It was like even if you didn't have Taylor Lautner, you wouldn't miss him. That type of deal is like you couldn't describe him really. He was kind of
Right.
like the here's some oranges, like I said, or something like that. I don't know.
I I believe his name was Marcus. The was that the best player on the team, basically. I think his name
Was
was,
it Marcos or
yeah, Marcos, best player. I thought his dad was really good. Like I'd like the whole time I'm like, man, his dad, like he was a really good actor. I thought like I would have bought him as the head coach a little more maybe.
yeah? To be honest with you, because I know people just like his dad, like
Oh
all
yeah.
through my hometown. I'm like, yeah, I could definitely see him more as the head coach or
Uh,
something. That'd be a
Okay,
lot funnier.
let's get into this a little bit. I thought that Marcos and his dad, from the small amount of time I spent in Texas, we were in Arlington for a weekend. I met more guys exactly like Marcos's dad, that were Dallas Cowboys fans that weekend that I talked
Yeah,
to. That I thought that was the most realistic the person in the whole movie. I'm like, I literally was like, I think I sat and drank beers with that guy. I really do. It
you
was just
did.
I thought it was perfect casting. You live, you're how close are you to where this took place? Do you know? Did you look into
Agro
it?
Agro's in the Dallas area, so that's probably like 4 hours or something like that. It
Oh,
just
okay.
depends.
So
It's a good distance away. I'd have to
yeah, I
check.
had no idea.
It's a nice suburb area because I had a couple of guys in college that were from there.
Okay. Oh, well, that makes sense because Peyton would have coached for the Cowboys, and that's
Yeah,
probably when he started his family there before he moved on. Okay, that makes total sense. So, I was just curious about that. obviously Texas is so huge. You're 4 hours from there, and on the map, it probably looks like a blip. You drive 4 hours in
Yeah.
Ohio, you're in another state. I'm just like,
Yeah.
unless you start at the corner of Ohio, you can't drive 4 hours anywhere. Toledo, I guess maybe from Toledo to Cincinnati is probably 5. So I
It's
guess
5?
it's possible. It's probably 5 across Ohio, like totally across it. That way, north to south, side to side, maybe 4. I don't even know if it's 4. It's probably right around there. Yeah.
Okay, that's like me from Houston or something like that. That
Yeah,
distance.
exactly. Yeah, there's probably 10 Ohios if you could pack in Texas, but then my other question was about Texas. Before we get out of here, is
Okay.
this realistic? Is 6th grade football this big of a deal in Texas? Because I would imagine it is.
Oh yeah, it is. Like it's basically like the definition of a small town, and football is life there from the fall until the end of the year. It's like people will literally close down shop, and we're all going to go to this game. That's basically it. All those dads and moms that are in those. That's they're realistic. There's no over exaggerating. That's Texas parents.
So I'll put you on the spot. We may do a show about this sometime, Aaron. I like this, but real quick, what's your favorite football movie based in the state of Texas? I can think of like you got like Friday Night Lights, you got Varsity Blues, you've got what's the Necessary Roughness, underrated movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's another.
I can't. I'm sure. I know there's more. What jumps out as your favorite? You're like, yeah, that's Texas.
Friday Night Lights. That's my movie. Like,
that's it.
Man, that movie gets you hyped. Like,
dude,
we'll watch it before games.
So here's my relationship with that movie. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. And I also can't watch it because it replicates my son's like high school football career. Like they had a really, really, really good team, and on it because of Joe Burrow, couldn't quite get over the hump, which is relevant right now. This is a true story. And there was one season to where they were going to, they weren't a real successful team before like 20 years ago. So they have a chance to beat a really good team in middle of the state here in Columbus. They kick a field goal and make it, get called for delay game. So you got to move back 5 yards, re-kick the field goal. It was like we had a really good field goal kicker. It was somewhere around like 45 yards, hits the crossbar, bounces. This is with time running out, hits a crossbar, bounces straight up in the air and comes down just on the end zone side of the crossbar to lose the game. And when that ball's floating in midair, it was the longest like 2 seconds of our lives. And it was just like, so when I watch Friday Night Lights, like I got to be emotionally ready to watch Friday Night Lights. It's so good. Well, it's a running thing right here. What's everybody say? Like, when you're at your lowest or whatever the saddest moments you could have, it's Booby in the car. I mean, it's Booby in the car is the saddest moment in any movie I've ever watched in my entire life.
Man, that is like if anybody has ever witnessed getting hurt or something like that, where you might not able to play again,
crushing. Yeah, which is pretty cool too, because that team that we're getting too far into Friday Night Lights, but that team that they talk about was just before I started playing high school football. So I really related to like us having to, paint our shoes black so we could have black shoes and, different things like that weren't available. So it's really a relevant show. I think that story took place in 89 or 90. I can't quite remember when that season was, but, I was playing high school football in 90. So we were right there because the Friday Night Lights was originally wrote as I believe it was Sports Illustrated articles, a series of them. And I remember reading them like while I'm playing football. It was so relevant. So yeah, that's a great one. So that's the right answer. That's the right answer. We'll do a show about that. You can come on and do Friday Night Lights.
Oh yeah,
we'll set that up.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a tough rewatch for me. That'd be a tough rewatch for me. That hits every nerve.
For me too. I like
yeah, you get it. That's the realest of the real. So I don't want. I'll do a list sometime, but that's high up there on my sports movie list. And what's funny is it never makes my list because I can't talk. Like I put it out of my mind because it's so good. And then I remember it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. But
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. So overall, I don't know how we're gonna rate this. Let's do what's your typical rating if you're rating a movie? Do you like to do 1 through 5? Do you like to do 1 to 10?
I do 1 through 5 and stuff like that. Like most anything I do, like with food or something like that. So
Yeah, exactly. So you know what? You do a show called Tacos and Touchdowns. So how many tacos? How many spicy hot tacos do you give home team?
I'm gonna give him 3. It was a good movie, but there was a couple of scenes I like. Oh, they could have took this out and stuff like that. But if you're looking for a good slapstick kind of comedy movie, but with a little base of truth in there, this is for you.
I will give it 3 delicious tacos because of the movie they were going for. I think they made the
Yeah,
movie they were going for. It's a movie that 12-year-olds can watch 47 times on
yeah,
Netflix and get a kick out of it. If it's on at a different, it's one of these movies that passes the test. If it's on at a certain scene, like if I turn it on and it's the Porcupine head coach talking, I'm watching that. I'm watching that 10 minutes. So,
yeah.
it passes that test, which is really cool. So, the last question I have though, and I kept thinking about this movie. If you took this story and made it like a real, like an actual drama, like about the Sean Payton suspension, he goes back and he's trying to, connect with his son, and it could they have made a serious movie that would have been good, or would or was this the way to go?
Uh, it could have went the serious role, but I feel like it would have been super sports tropey, and then we're like, oh, it's just another type of movie. But if you get the right
Good
type of
point.
writing, maybe. But I kind of like the nice little comedy twist instead of the typical drama and stuff like that. Just kind of like a different realm of like sports movies. Like
You know
usually
what?
is
That's a good point, man. Because if they do it, yeah, it winds up being a lifetime movie if they go the other
yeah,
direction. And we may watch it once and be like, "Oh, that was pretty good," or you're going to get an actor that's going to be trying to win an Oscar and he's going to go way over the top,
mhm,
trying to be Sean
yeah,
Payton or something, and it's probably not going to last as long. So you know what? You're right. I think you've sold me on that. I think they did. I think they made the right movie. Whether they might have went too far, but that's all right because the kids did a
yeah.
great job, and I assume kids will like this movie. Hope they can relate to this movie. I hope they can watch this movie for a lot of years, to come. So I think they did what they intended to do. So right now
Absolutely.
it's on Netflix. It'll probably be on there forever. Anybody, if you want to go see it, that's cool. So that's all we have from here. This movie, we give it 3 delicious tacos. Speaking of tacos, Aaron, where can they find you?
Hey, they can because if you're watching it live, it's tacos and touchdowns, 2 capital T's. That's on Twitter and Facebook, on Twitter and IG. But if you're gonna watch it on Facebook, tacos and touchdown live, y'all can definitely go check us out. We usually have episodes on Thursday, and I'm also going to be doing some more draft profiles for Off the Ball Network. So definitely be on the
Nice.
lookout for us. So that's all my little social medias and stuff. And I had to think like, there any more? Like, let me
I
not
know,
forget
man.
any.
We
But yeah,
we've all got
those are
so
the main
many.
ones.
Well, I'll make sure I put all the links in the setting to screen profile. This is a new podcast. We have a few of them coming out. New project we're doing. They're going to build up. So if you look and you see there's only a couple episodes on here, be patient with us. They're going to be coming. Football off season's coming up. We got a lot of stuff planned. I've already tricked AB into doing Friday Night Lights with me. We may do the best. We may do a best Texas football movie list. We've already got best movie villains coming up soon. Hopefully, best sports movie villains coming up soon. These won't all be sports movies either. Like something else we got coming up. Me and Stu are definitely doing The Dark Knight here in a few weeks. That's going to be a big episode that we've been
That's
waiting
gonna be
on.
a good
So
one.
a lot of fun stuff coming here from Setting the Screen and the Off Ball Network. But of course, I'm Jeff. If you want to check out my podcast, I'm Jeff Needs Sports. More importantly, go to offtheballnetwork.com and check out everything that the gang's doing over there. It's a lot, but it's enjoyable. Anything you want to know, we're there. And get at us on Twitter, get at us on Instagram, anywhere you can find us, and we appreciate it. So that's it for Setting the Screen, everybody. Thanks, AB. Thanks everybody for listening and watching, and we are